What is going on, my fellow WWEites? It is your fellow WWEite, Hollywood Steve here, with the review for NXT and what all went down last night. Let's jump right into things, shall we? NXT opened with a video promo package from Lash legend Izzy Dame, Jada Parker, and Jordynne Grace. All four ladies are going to be participating later on in the women's Fatal 4-Way to determine who will be going on to face Jacy Jayne at Evolution in July from Atlanta, Georgia. Then we got our first match of the night, which was the TNA Men's World Heavyweight Champion Trick Williams putting his title on the line against Josh Briggs, who was accompanied by Yoshiki Inamura. And this is the 11th title defense for Trick Williams and the 6th time that the TNA title was defended on NXT television. Briggs hits a huge clothesline on Trick Williams for a 2 count, but then Trick slows it down, puts Briggs in a headlock, which he held for most of the match. Also a good portion of the match. Briggs gets caught with a back. Briggs gets caught, or sorry, not Briggs, but Briggs catches Williams with a back body drop. Briggs and Williams trade blows. Then Trick Williams sent Josh Briggs to the outside, and as Williams went to the outside, he goes to punch or slap Inamura, and Inamura blocked it. And Josh Briggs capitalizes with a big boot to Trick Williams on the outside, and he gets Williams back inside the ring, controls the match for a few minutes, but Trick Williams hits a scissor kick, and Briggs counters it into a nice counter into a side slam. Briggs hit a few more big moves and attempts to finish off Trick Williams by climbing to the top rope to hit a moonsault, but unfortunately he miscalculated and gets hit with the trick shot, and Trick Williams retains his TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Next up, following that post-match, Trick grabs a mic and he starts cutting a promo saying how he has carried both brands and how they better start putting some darn respect on his name. And then Joe Hendry's music hits. He's interrupted by Joe Hendry, and it looks like Joe Hendry's gonna come running down the aisle, but Joe Hendry runs up behind Trick Williams and hits a couple of nails Trick Williams with a couple of clotheslines. Second one sending Trick Williams over the top rope. And then we go backstage and we have the NQCC Tavion Heights talking to Ren Sinclair, saying how Charlie Dempsey did not injure him in training by accident, because Tavion thinks it's on purpose, because he thinks that Charlie Dempsey does not want him to leave the NQCC, just like Miles Bourne did. That Charlie wants to keep the NQCC together. But Tavion said not to worry. He got medically cleared and has a mask for his face. And after his match, Charlie wouldn't have to worry about him anymore because he wouldn't be part of the NQCC. Then we had Miles Bourne backstage. Then we had Miles Bourne backstage. Sorry guys, hold on. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Had to make a few adjustments. Had to make a few adjustments to the old to the old equipment here. All right, so like I said, we have the NQCC. They're backstage. They're going back and forth. They're talking. They're doing their thing, right? And then we got Miles Bourne backstage. He's talking to a couple of guys from the Florida Gators football team and just saying how much he appreciates them and all that good stuff, and everything. And then Lexis King walks in and is trying to get Miles' attention. He says, "Oh yeah, forget you're deaf," and Miles says he's actually hard of hearing, so he heard everything that Lexis King had to say, and that he did everything. He didn't have to take any shortcuts to get to where he was, unlike Lexis King, who will always be his father's son. And Lexis takes a jab at the Florida Gators football team guys, saying how they haven't won a championship in decades, and then he walks off, and then we get Jada Parker. She's backstage warming up for her Fatal 4-Way later on, and then we get Tavion Heights versus Javon Evans. Javon Evans makes his way to the ring, and then we get Tavion Heights accompanied by Charlie Dempsey and Ren Sinclair. To start out the match, Heights shows off his great ground game and his mat wrestling prowess, his skills, and so it's kind of slow to start. Javon hits a heel kick and a super kick and a top rope spinning splash for the win. So this match went on for a little bit. I mean, it was an okay match. It was all right. It was okay. And then as Javon Evans is celebrating the victory, and unfortunately with the win, with Javon Evans getting the win, Tavion Heights does not get to leave the NQCC, and Jasper Troy makes his way out to the ring and just ambushes Javon Evans for no reason. He just straight up just ambushes him and takes him out with a choke slam. And as he's walking back up the ramp, he stares at the NQCC. And this would not be the only time. This would not be the first time. The last time we would see Jasper Troy. We would see him a second time later on. So we'll see. We end up seeing Jasper Troy a little bit later on in the night. So then we get a nice little video recap package of what was supposed to be Tony D'Angelo versus or not Tony D'Angelo, but Stacks versus Noam Dar for the coveted Heritage Cup Championship. But unfortunately, Noam Dar has suffered a injury, so he's not able to compete. So we get a couple of Twitter or X posts back and forth between Luca, Tony, and Stacks, And Lucas says that he got Tony a match for the Heritage Cup Championship against Stacks since the Heritage Cup Championship has been vacated by Noam Dar because of injury. So we get Stacks. So we're gonna get Stacks versus D'Angelo for the NXT Heritage Cup. And then, but next up we had Ricky Saints taking on Ashante the Adonis. Ashante came out swinging, but Saints gained control in very quick fashion. And just before the ad break, just before they went to break, we had let me see here. Let me find my spot. I lost my spot, guys. Hold on, let me find my spot. Okay. So coming back from the ad break, Ashante the Adonis was in control. Ashante hits his finisher, the cash out, but only gets a 2 count. And Ricky Saints just takes control. Ricky Saints hits the Rochambeau for the win. And Ethan Page appears on the screen, which looks like he's going to cut a on-screen promo, but that glitches out, and he comes running up behind Ricky Saints, and he looks like he's going to looks like he's going to hit the Twisted Grin, but hits Ricky Saints with his own move, the Rochambeau, and leaves him laying in the middle of the ring. Then after that, we got another ad break, and we had Obafemi come out after that, and he says how he's beating everybody in NXT, and there's nobody left for him to challenge. He's beating everybody on NXT, he's beating everybody up on Raw and on SmackDown. But then he's interrupted by Yoshiki Inamura, who came out and said he came to NXT for glory, but he didn't find it. So he went home to Japan, but he realized how much he missed NXT and how much he missed his tag team partner Josh Briggs, and how he missed the passion, and most of all, how he missed the NXT fans. He and Oba went back and forth for a little bit, and Inamura said that in the end, that he was ready to face Oba because he wants bigger challenges in NXT, and what better, bigger challenge So what bigger challenge than to challenge Obafemi for the NXT Championship? And then we got our second appearance of Jasper Troy last night, and he jumps up on the apron and just has this nice little stare down with Oba. So we may be revisiting that match, and Oba says that they were not finished yet, and so it looks like we might be getting that rematch. Then we had Tatum Paxley backstage, and Izzy Dame walks up to Tatum and asks her if she'd like to join her ringside for her match, and we get Sol Roca and Zarya walking up and asking Tatum what she's doing, why she's associating with Izzy Dame. Izzy Dame is no good. She's a bully. Then Izzy looks at Zarya and says the only gold that she would get close to would be the gold that was around Sol Ruka's shoulder, that was on Sol Ruka's shoulder. And Tatum, looking for friends, follows Izzy around the corner, and we run into Shawn Spears and Nico Vance. Izzy, of course, introduces Tatum to him, and Spears wishes Izzy good luck in her match, And then he said that he and Vance have their eyes on some gold, so they could be looking for. Looks like they're looking for the NXT Tag Team Championship. And then we finally got the Heritage Cup Championship match between Tony D'Angelo and Stax. Again, that was vacated by Noam Dar due to injury. And after the ad break, we see Trick Williams backstage with Wesley and High Rise. They walk in, and Wesley tells Trick that he just left Ava's office, just got done talking to her, and he got himself a match next week with Joe Hendry, and that he would take care of Joe Hendry for him before their match at Slammiversary. So Trick is like, "Nah, awesome. Okay, yeah, you and High Rise take care of Joe Hendry for me. Soften him up." And then Trick says that he owes Wesley one, so he owes him a match basically. Then we finally got to our match. Stax, of course, picks up the win here, either by an intentional or unintentional bucket to the back of Tony D'Angelo by Luca. And Luca's been having some issues. Tony's been actually having some issues trusting Luca, and because Tony knows that since he got betrayed by Stax, he's having a really hard time trusting anybody in the family. So we'll see where that goes. But after the match, Tony lays Luca out with a right hand, and said he does not trust Luca or Stax. And then Sarah Schreiber's backstage interviewing Fatal Influence. Well, they are discussing the reason why they ruined the contract signing of Blake Monroe last week. And then after the ad break, we had Thea Hale backstage, and Lainey Reed walks up and says for a grown woman, she sure knows how to get played like a fiddle. And as Reed and Hale were jawing back and forth, Lash Legend walked up and said for them to save all their arguing and to watch how the bougie bully gets things done. And then we had Ethan Page and Ava walking backstage, and Ava questioned Page about his sneak attack on Ricky Saints after his match. Page said that the easiest way for Ava to solve everything between him and Saints would be to keep Saints far, far away from him. And Ava said she wasn't going to do that. Ava reminded Page that next week he and Saints are required to be in Ava's office. And so that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be interesting to see how that goes. Then around the corner, Ava goes running around the corner because she hears a clanking and banging, and we see Tank and Hank laid out by some unknown assailants, which we probably know who they are. We know it's Shawn Spears and Nico Vance. And then Sarah Schreiber, she's in the back talking to Joe Hendry, and he's talking about his loss to Trick Williams at Battleground, and he said that at TNA Slammiversary, he would regain the TNA Championship and bring it back to NXT, bring it back to TNA where it rightfully belongs. But next week he would remind Wesley where he came from, how that he started out in TNA, and remind him of his roots and basically remind him where he came from. And he said that he said he forgot that he cut his teeth in TNA. And then we had a Chase U segment, Chase U. Then we finally got our main event, the Fatal 4-Way, in a hard-hitting, action-packed match. In the end, Jordynne Grace picks up the victory and is now the number one contender for JC Jane's NXT Women's Championship, and she will go on to face and JC Jane will go on to face Jordan Grace at Evolution. That is going to be a really good match. I don't like JC Jane's chances against Jordan Grace, but we will have to see how much Fatal Influence plays a part. But overall, it was a very, very hard-hitting, action-packed episode of NXT. I very much enjoyed it. But hey, guys, that's gonna do it. Until next time, my WWEites. This is Hollywood Steve saying, when you're Hollywood Steve, it's just too sweet.